You're watching FRCD on CAN TV. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is the Region 1 Parent Training and Information Center of Illinois. You can reach us at 312-939-3513. Email us at info@frcd.org and visit our website at www.frcd.org. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter at FRCDPTI, subscribe to our YouTube page at FRCD1231, and like us on Facebook. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is not a law firm or a legal service agency. Family Resource Center on Disabilities will not provide any type of services that may be construed as practicing law, including but not limited to giving legal advice, drafting legal documents, or representing families in any type of legal proceeding. Hello, my name is Paula Wills, and you're watching Family Resource Center on, well, no, you're not watching Family Resource Center on Disabilities. You're watching FRCD on CAN TV, where we discuss special education, parent advocacy, and resources for families of children with disabilities. And I am happy to have back with me our bilingual parent trainer, Zubida Pasha.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, please. We are thrilled to have you back. And happy belated New Year. Last year we left off on talking about resources for transition, especially once the student graduates. So I'm happy and relieved to have Zubida back here with me to further discuss those resources. Yeah, January was a rough month. I'm still recovering. How about you?
It was a very good month, and we are transitioning in 2019. As you're talking about transition, I am a parent of a child who is in transition, and she is exiting from the high school, going to the next transition of services that she needs to meet her needs. And this is a very, very good topic that you have chosen. It's a lot to cover. I call it the elephant that fills the room.
Yes, it does.
And there are many layers, and the parent need to be more and more informed, because it's very important to have the information and use it and apply it. And I am in it now because years ago when we used to do the training, we talk and read and do all of that. Now I am into that stage of reading and applying, and I can tell you a lot of stories. It's very taxing because it has a lot of layers, and you are talking about eligibility, and sometimes the entitlement is in our heads because our child have an IEP, and you go with that mindset in every entity.
Yeah, and things were a lot more automatic, and
it's different when you talk about entitlement through IDEA and free appropriate public education, and you transfer that to the services for adult services is eligibility, and it is totally different, and you have to read the fine print. And if you miss that fine print, guess what? You go back, and to start all over is not fun.
No, it's not.
I'm not scaring parents, but I am speaking up the truth, and
you definitely want to get on top of things.
That's right. That is correct.
So I'm not sure if I left off on puns, but we're gonna kind of go over briefly what puns is, and we're gonna hit the puns website. So Zubida, could you kind of talk about what we mean when we talk about puns, the prioritization of urgency and of needs for services?
This is a service that all parents should have their child on the list of puns. It is a program, and it is a lottery, and also a statistics that will tell the state how many people or how many person are on the list have that DD, developmental disability, or ID, which is intellectual disability. I'm sorry, I use a lot of acronyms. It is so crucial that the parent at any age, I have dealt with EI families, early intervention families, and once we finished the conversation about IEP, right away I went to the puns, and they said, well, it's too early. I said, you put your child, because you don't know when they will be pulled.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective, when we're saying early intervention, we're talking about age 0 to Three. I'm sorry, three.
To 3. So if you have documentation and you can find information like Paula is putting it up from the website, and follow those prompts through the phone calls, make sure you collect all the information. Again, it is so crucial that you put your child on that list. It is for many reasons. It's statistics, and also the lucky ones who get pulled, they receive services. Some of the services has changed as
Okay.
we, as Family Resource Center on Disabilities, have been involved in different task force and councilings, what have you. There are changes, and you can find the changes in the DD.
I'm sorry, I'll pull that right back up.
Please
It is
do.
the www.dd.illinois.gov.
And DD stands for Developmental Disability Division specifically, and you will find the couple of things that has changed. But please call that 1-888 DD plans. It's very important you put your child on that list. And again, it's a set of services that can be utilized for home base, where the child can learn how to navigate the community, for life skills, an array of supports that the child can get if they are small. If they are adults, definitely they will be used for supported employment,
Right.
for
For
different
job coaches.
coaching, transportation, going to and from the job. You will have somebody with your child who can help them to navigate for safety purposes and what have you. So please put your child on that list as soon as possible. No wait.
But and again, we do want to emphasize that it is a list. So even though you put your child on that list, doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the services. So there is a process, but at the very least, put their name on the list.
And the renewal every year. There is a new renewal process. You don't put them on the list and you forget about it. You renew every year. You double check
Right.
with the IC. I think it's the ISCs, which is the coordination for the individualized services. It used to be called PASS, and forgive me, I'm using a lot of acronym, which is the pre-admission screening agencies. There are a lot of changes. That's the changes that I've been talking about. The jargon has changed.
Yes.
Certain aspect of the PUNS has changed, but they are not drastically impacting the services directly for those who need supported employment versus home base and what have you. But make sure you get also documentation. Keep
Yes.
documentation. School documentation, doctor documentation. With the doctor, it's not the medical per se, but you would need psych. You would need a lot of reports showing that the child or the person have that disability, which is developmental disability, such as autism, for example, or intellectual disability.
Thank you so much.
No
As I
problem.
said, each one of these is its own show. So we're just kind of going through each, I guess, aspect of transition. So we also want to talk about researching the future, vocational options. So we have a couple of resources down here. We'll start with Illinois Worknet. This is very helpful if you have your child. I believe they have a portal that your child can actually get on now and start putting up their resume, going through the number of skills. I mean, this is not just for students with disabilities. These are for all people looking for work, but they do have portals and resources for your child as well, for a young person, preparing for the workforce. As you can see there, you can see Disability Works, youth resources. They have Resume Builder. Very youth-friendly resources. So you can see here, Youth Guide, Service Locator. So this is Illinois Worknet. This is one of the work-related resources that you can attend. It's not but it is definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, as a parent, you may want to go over there and just check it out yourself to, see how you can best help your child navigate that. Another one we have is Career OneStop. Zabita, can you talk a little bit about what Career OneStop is? Those one-stop shops we often hear about?
Well, these are resources to build the vocational skills for the youth. Now, we have to kind of backtrack to the transition plan when they are in the high school or
Thank
when
you.
they are in the transition. One of the resources that can go along with these things that Paula is sharing with you, and thank you so much for these wonderful slides and visuals, make sure that you are connected with the Department of Rehab Services.
Yes.
This is really the cornerstone of the vocational if the parent and of course the youth are geared towards work. That's number one thing that it has to be done.
Could you talk about Voc Rehab attending IEP meetings? Like,
The representative, they should come to the meeting because the transition, they have those four layout,
Right.
those four sets of activities. Among them is employment. So if you have a goal for employment, the Department of Rehab Services should send a counselor. First of all, when your child is a freshman, make sure you have the Department of Rehab Services referral done. Do not wait until they become seniors.
so just to be clear, the parent reaching out or is the school's reaching out, correct?
Supposedly, the networking come from the school, but if you don't see that coming, make sure you have that on your to-do list. And open an agenda when you go to the meeting. Where are the folks? Because if you are transitioning with an IEP and your son or daughter have a disability, make sure you are familiar what is transition, what is the interagency collaboration. Interagency when people are coming from different sources and community to help your child transition, because transition is the next step.
And I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes when you show a website, you're like, oh, great, so now I got to surf this website, I got to surf. No, it's all working together. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up Voc Rehab. Yes, that, and even if your child's working with a job coach, these are helpful sites when you're working with your job coach. But that is not your sole resource. You're not, expected to sit in front of a computer and surf the net until you find something and the child can teach themselves. No, it doesn't work that way. These are helpful tools.
Right, these are tools that can help you gear and have a gist. Vocational training should be like the Illinois Worknet, the Career OneStop. These are websites that can help you have some assessments, some inventories, some information, because when your child is going to work, what skills do they have? And if they have basic skills, how can we make those skills more efficient and helpful to the child to have a career? Because a lot of times and you heard that too, I want to be a basketball player in the NBA. Okay, what are the skills that you have? So we have to do
Right.
an inventory of the skills that are, maybe that kid can work with the NBA, but not necessarily on the basketball court. He can do some function. And we have cases where the children are copying, doing schedules, washing the attires. So that's work, but it has to be the preference, the interest, and the skill set. These are really three things that need to be considered seriously and professionally done through assessment, inventories, and what have you. The rehab department will help also with job search, resume building. I call it portfolio building
And
because
job
when you
coaching.
job coaching, when you have a resume, what else do we have to? What do we need with the resume? We need a letter of recommendation. We need mock interviews. My child has autism. We went through so many mock interviews because of that anxiety and the communication skill deficit that she has. So we have to tell the other party from the other side of the table, hey, she like visuals. Make sure you give her the question and give her a lag of time for her to respond. So these are things really has to be looked into. I really like that slide and I keep looking at it.
No, I was going to also add another thing about mock interviews. One of the things you want to also take in consideration is, does the student know how to answer that question? So when they say, tell me about yourself, Well, my aunt's name is Carol, and she's like my favorite aunt. And yesterday we went grocery shopping, and I got the chance to buy yogurt. That's not what they're asking. Does the student know what they're asking? The purpose of them being there. So I'm gonna pull up another a resource that I think is useful. I also want to thank Zabita. Zabita's going to step away for a moment. But I want to pull up another resource, the Jan Accommodation resource. Now this one is particularly important. I didn't give Zabita the proper send-off, but thank you, Zabita. She is a wealth of information. But if she were here, she would want me to talk about the JAN's Job Accommodation Network. Why is this important? Because when your student turns 18 or completes high school, people, unless you have guardianship, employers are not going to want to talk to you. It's going to be on the student, your child, to advocate for themselves. So they're going to have to know what their rights are. Do they want to disclose their disability? What does it mean if they disclose? And then how do you go about getting those accommodations? That often said in the disability community that is a personal choice. So one of the things you'll see here with Jan, that they have the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act library. That's the law that protects your child when they become an adult. I mean, this law all protects them always, but they will no longer have the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This is the law that resides over. You have accommodation search. So what types of accommodations are you looking for? What is appropriate accommodation to ask for? So you can see in popular searches, decreased stamina, fatigue, depression, diabetes. So this is an array of disabilities covered under this, in this website. They go into depth talking about what accommodations you can ask for. They have training, as I said, again, each one of these is their own show. So briefly what we kind of spoke on careers, preparing for the future, vocational options. I mean, there's education, there's vocation, and then some students may want to go on to college. So one of the things that we also like to promote is thinkcollege.net. So does your child want to go to a state or private university? Are they going to start out at a community college? Learning programs. There's a number of options just in education. So if your child does not decide they don't want to go directly into, start working right away, or you want to train for a vacation, maybe they want to, spend some time in college, these are the resources. And again, they have events and webinars that you and your child can, attend to prepare for what to expect next. So we see here, vocational rehabilitation affinity group meetings. So they have a number of tales from help desk, answers to your most commonly asked VR questions. So yeah, they have a number of webinars going well into June that the parent can participate in, or the child can participate in as well. So I guess one of the most important things that we want to point out is that your child does have options, and that transition plan is going to help create some options for your child. And we stress, start early. Start having these conversations when they're 12, when they're 5, thinking about what do you want, what types of options do you want for them when they are adults. We often promote, try to, to be a continued learner, because you may not necessarily know. I mean, I know I didn't know at 18 what I wanted to be when I was 35, and things change. What you may start off as one thing and become something else. So that's another thing, preparing for change. So that's one thing that we definitely promote at Family Resource Center on Disabilities. And I wanted to also point out one of the downsides when you open up a ton of windows, you forget the main window that you wanted to get into. But you know what, we'll just keep going with job accommodation, because the window that I had planned I lost. But we're just going to move forward. So, secondary continuing education options. Students planning to remain in school until 22. That is something that you definitely want to kind of hash out, early in EIP. Sometimes you can tell that, my student may need a couple of more years. They're not going to graduate that senior year. They're going to go on because there's some skills that they need work on to be a better learner, continued learner when they graduate. And sometimes the student, you get pushed back from the student. They're ready, their friends are leaving, they're ready to leave. So that's a conversation you're going to want to have with your child. What are some where else can they continue their schooling? Does it have to be at the same high school? In many cases, they may offer classes at a community college. So another one that we are not going to have a whole lot of time to get into is housing. So one of the things we point out is, parents, they sometimes imagine that, my child's going to be with me forever. And, the child may not see it that way. They may not even see that there's a possibility, but there are options in finding housing. So one of the, I would say, we'll start off with this one. Apartment, alone roommates. So this is kind of new. I would say it's kind of newer, supportive housing where the student can live on their own. They can live on their own, and they have supported housing. The funding is significantly less money. They don't necessarily have to go into a group home. They don't have to necessarily have roommates, or they may be able to live with a sibling that is not disabled. Previously, some of the situations where students may be, or your children may be in a living situation with other, adults with disabilities, so they may not, if they wanted to get a particular rate. There's a lot more information behind supportive housing, but the website is, and let me go back to that. That is www.csh.org. I strongly advise parents and families to check into that. We're not going to have enough time to go into the others, which is independent living facility and purchasing a home. So we may have to save that for the next show. But I sincerely want to thank you guys for joining us this week. Transition, it is not a 5-minute conversation. It's not a 20-minute conversation. This is a topic that is ongoing, even after your child ages out of high school. Transition, we're constantly transitioning into adulthood, transitioning into, retirement, old age. So it doesn't stop. But I want to thank you for joining us this week. I want to thank Sabita for joining us and helping me out today. So everyone have a wonderful week and stay warm.